Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. If you're working with Oracle DataGuard, or maybe you're gearing up to, you know that keeping your database highly available is literally your absolute top priority. But look, when a 3 a.m. crisis hits, or you've got a massive, high-stakes upgrade looming, staring at a blank command line is the worst possible time to start second-guessing your options. So today, we are going to completely unpack the 3 critical Oracle DataGuard operations: Switchover, Failover, and Fast-Start Failover, or FSFO. We're going to explore the exact mechanics, the strict operational boundaries, and precisely when you should be using each one, all guided by an incredibly detailed visual cheat sheet.
Okay, let's dive into this. We're going to run through a top-down masterclass journey today. We'll start with the 3 role transitions, move into a head-to-head feature comparison, map out a really handy decision tree, look at the exact syntax commands you need, bust some common confusions with a few interview questions, and then we'll wrap it all up with our final takeaways.
Now, check out this master diagram. This is going to be our visual anchor for the explainer. It perfectly maps out the frankly terrifying problem of database crashes and solves it through these 3 distinct pathways. We're going to explore the exact why behind every single green checkmark and red cross you see here. We'll uncover exactly how DataGuard protects our critical information from everything ranging from a totally unplanned disaster to your routine Tuesday maintenance.
All right, Section 1, the 3 role transitions. Let's get our baseline concepts clearly defined before we compare them side by side. First up, we have the switchover. Notice the calm green arrows here, cleanly swapping places between the primary and the standby databases. A switchover is a completely 100% planned role transition. Because it's so highly coordinated between the 2 systems, it guarantees absolute 0 data loss. So when do we actually use it? Well, as the icons show us, we use this for the wrench and clock of patching and upgrades. We use it for planned maintenance, the globe icon for site migration, disaster recovery testing, and load balancing. Basically, if you are safely scheduling downtime on your calendar, you're using a switchover.
Now, contrast that with failover. Notice the harsh red X right over the primary database. The primary is completely gone. Failover is an emergency takeover by the standby, which immediately becomes the new primary after that failure. This is for when things go fundamentally horribly wrong. The common uses listed here are all sudden, massive emergencies, the lightning bolt of a hardware failure, a storage failure, a complete site outage, a total power failure, or maybe an unplugged cord causing network isolation. You do not plan a failover, right? You execute it to survive a disaster when your primary database unexpectedly vanishes.
And that brings us to our third pathway, FSFO, or Fast-Start Failover. This one is characterized by the observer icon. See that little robot actively watching the primary? When a primary failure happens, marked by that red warning triangle, FSFO initiates an automatic failover to the standby, spinning up a new primary without any human intervention whatsoever. It triggers in mere seconds. The common uses here are strictly for environments that literally cannot afford to wait for a human response. We're talking 24/7 critical systems, banking and finance, high-availability apps, mission-critical workloads, basically anywhere that absolutely requires 0 manual intervention to maintain uptime.
So, the crucial point is this fascinating realization highlighted right here in bright yellow. FSFO is not a third role transition. FSFO is automated failover. This is so incredibly important for us to grasp. In DataGuard, the 2 actual fundamental role transitions are switchover and failover. FSFO is simply a highly powerful automation framework built right on top of the failover process to completely eliminate the need for a human to type a command. Let's shift gears to Section 2. Head-to-head comparison. This is where we get into our granular 10-point matrix breakdown.
Let's methodically read through these operational mechanics row by row. Look at the calendar icons. Is the operation planned? Yes for switchover, but definitely no for failover and FSFO. Is it automatic? No for switchover and failover, but a resounding yes for FSFO. For emergency use, only failover and FSFO get that green checkmark. Moving down to the gears, does it require the primary database to actually be available? Well, switchover needs a healthy primary to coordinate the role reversal, so yes. But failover and FSFO are designed specifically for when it's offline, so no. Is human action required? Yes for switchover and failover, but no for FSFO. And finally, check out the eye icons at the bottom. Only FSFO requires that dedicated observer process to function.
Now shifting to the impact metrics. Check out the clock icons for downtime. Switchover is very low, usually just seconds, because it's a controlled swap. Failover is technically low, but honestly, it can stretch from seconds to minutes depending heavily on how fast your DBA can respond. FSFO offers the absolute lowest downtime because it reacts automatically. And what's the typical use case? Switchover is strictly for maintenance and planned activities. Failover is for disaster recovery when the primary is lost. FSFO is for automatic DR with zero manual effort. And look at the shield icon for the goal. While Switchover is all about a planned transition, both Failover and FSFO share the exact same primary goal: simply surviving a critical outage.
And this brilliantly illustrates the data loss risk across the three. For Switchover, you see perfectly balanced scales, guaranteeing zero data loss due to its planned nature. With Failover, marked by the hazard sign, there's possible data loss, right? Because the primary might have crashed before sending its final transactions over. And with FSFO's shield, data loss depends entirely on your configured protection mode. As the cheat sheet carefully notes, in an unplanned event, any actual data loss ultimately depends on the last redo logs successfully received and applied by the standby database.
Moving right along to Section 3, which operation should I use? Let's walk through this decision tree logic.
I highly recommend burning this logic sequence into your memory for when that inevitable crisis hits. Step 1. Ask yourself, is the primary database healthy and available? If the answer is yes, you do a switchover. Boom, safe, planned transition. If the answer is no, meaning the primary is totally down, you move to step 2. Do you want the system to fail over automatically? If yes, you use FSFO, which relies on our little robot friend, the observer. If you answer no, meaning you want deliberate manual control over the situation, you use Failover, which requires your manual action to initiate.
Section 4. Syntax and DGMRL commands. Let's look at how to actually trigger these in the real world.
Inside the DataGuard Broker command line, DGMRL, the exact syntax you type is wonderfully straightforward. For a switchover, you literally just type switchover to standby. For a manual failover, it's just failover to standby. To turn on the automation of FSFO, you use Enable Fast-Start Failover. And hey, notice this special callout with the yellow star at the bottom. For a massive, unplanned, absolute emergency where you need to bypass any normal attempts to apply pending redo data, like you just need it up right now, you use the command Failover Immediate.
Okay, Section 5, Confusions and Interview Questions. It's time to bust some common myths and help you crush your next technical interview. Let's rapidly debunk these. The cheat sheet highlights these common confusions perfectly with red crosses and green checks. First myth, equating FSFO with switchover. That is a massive misconception. As the robot icon confirms, FSFO is automatic failover, it is not a planned switch. Next myth, using failover for planned maintenance. Big red cross there. You absolutely do not use a chaotic emergency failover routine just to schedule a patch. Final myth, thinking switchover handles disaster recovery. Again, red cross. Switchovers are cleanly planned events. Disasters are totally unplanned and mandate failover operations.
All right, here's a great question from the Sources Interview Gold section. Which operation has zero data loss? Based on those perfectly balanced scales we saw earlier, the answer is switchover, because it coordinates the shutdown of the primary and the transition to the standby completely before finishing. Literally, no transaction data is ever left behind.
Next question, which operation requires an observer? Remember our little robot icon? The answer is FSFO. The Fast Start Failover framework physically cannot function without that dedicated observer process constantly pinging the primary database to independently verify its health.
Question 3. Which operation is fully automatic? Again, the answer is FSFO. It stands entirely alone as the only fully automatic option among the three, executing the critical role transition seamlessly without you having to lift a finger.
And finally, a bit of a trick question. Can failover happen without the primary database? Surprisingly, yes, absolutely. In fact, failover is specifically designed to be executed precisely because the primary database is lost, destroyed, or just completely unreachable.
And that brings us to Section 6, Final Oracle Takeaways. Let's lock in the foundational rules.
The source summarizes everything into 3 distinct, powerful pillars, along with their respective icons. Number 1, plan for switchover. Use it as your planned transition tool for safe, clean maintenance. Number 2, prepare for failover. Know your manual emergency takeover procedures absolutely inside and out.
Number 3, enable FSFO for automation. Let the system handle the automatic emergency when zero downtime is critical. So I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder today. If your primary database totally crashed right this exact second, which of these 3 strategies, the calendar of switchover, the lightning bolt of failover, or the robot of FSFO, is your organization truly prepared for? Thanks so much for joining this explainer. We'll catch you next time.